I hope everyone's doing well and safe. Jess, how you doing, man? How you on? Well, how you been?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. What are we talking about, though?
We're going to get into that, man. We're going to get into a bag of things. I kind of did you dirty by not telling you. On a rather selfish one, I've got them in front of me. You being American, I want to ask you about Matt Turner. I want to speak about the Super Bowl. I want to ask you about that trusty guy and just general Arsenal, really. And I see a couple questions. So, yeah, really, that's all we're going to do, man. But before we carry on, I mean, I've been plugging your channel. I can't imagine no one knows who you are. Do you want to let them know who you are and what you're about? Mrs. She Knows Arsenal.
Yeah, that pretty much says it all. Like, channel's called She Knows Arsenal. You guys can follow that on Twitter and obviously on YouTube, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, just follow and talk about Arsenal. Everything from match previews to rants about what's going on with the club. So that's pretty much it, you guys. That's all I really have to add. Like, I just talk about Arsenal from my perspective. I'm not an expert or anything like that. I'm just a fan like everybody else, and I just give my 2 cents and argue with the chat box. That's kind of my vibe. So yeah.
Argue with the chat box. I actually watched one of your videos and it made me want to ask you something like, have Arsenal improved?
Yeah, we have improved. I mean, the show that I did was something that we had kind of done a couple of months back, looking at the statistical data around Arsenal to see kind of where we fit in to our contemporaries. And we know what it was like when we were playing against like Brighton, Crystal Palace, Burnley. You really had to squint to see whether or not Arsenal had improved or not, because the players were different, but we weren't playing great attacking football. We weren't scoring a lot of goals. It was rough, beyond Ramsdale and Tomiyasu playing out of their skin. It was rough, but we were getting results. Now the results and the eye test and the statistical data, the underlying metrics all kind of add up to Arsenal being a good team. And I know some people really want to push back on that. All that matters is, where we finish at the end of the season. But I think it's important to kind of look at things holistically, knowing that the results at the end of the season may not line up to us being the 4th best team in the league. But statistically right now, we are the 4th best team in the league. And sometimes in certain statistics, 3rd. So I like seeing that stuff. The season's not over, but we have definitely improved, especially when it comes to attacking, which is something that Arsenal fans have been complaining about since Arteta's come in. I think we all miss the free-flowing Arsene Wenger type, football. Yeah. Arteta ball is not really like that, but at least now we're seeing the goals, we're seeing the shots, we're seeing the sustained pressure, and I'm personally enjoying what I'm seeing.
You mentioned Arteta ball, and I was very critical on him. I felt early on it was quite rigid, it was quite regimented, it was quite predictable. I don't think we're all the way there yet. I don't think we can break down low blocks. But when I look at the goals against Southampton, a couple that Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli have scored, and even the goal against City in Saka's case, we are playing some bloody good football and some good moves. So do you think you've seen a change in that? And also kind of with the statistics that you mentioned, or the use of it, is there anything that stood out or took you by surprise that might not be seen by the eye in relation to our club?
Yeah, I would say that I think building from the back has been a big part of us actually being a better attacking side. And a lot of times that doesn't really make sense, because like, well, how can being defensively solid make you a better attacking team? And we suppress the opposition so much in terms of what they want to do offensively. And we don't really stifle them with like City-like possession, but we're trying to dominate more area. We're more aggressive on second balls. We suppress where they can get good shots, and we just kind of control games a lot better. And that comes from, Ramsdale and Ben White in particular, and Tomiyasu is a big part of that as well. And when you just tick up the pitch and see what Arteta has been trying to do, but he hasn't been able to because of the personnel, even look at Xhaka and Thomas Partey as being a big reason why we can sustain pressure. We just are so much better at shutting down the opposition in terms of what they want to do offensively, and then being so dominant in where we want to be on the pitch and making sure we control games that other teams just don't have a chance. And that's really difficult to do in this league. You're always going to give up some opportunities, but the ones that we give up are like, they're fine. Like the other team really has no chance. And even like Wolves, when we played against them, it seemed like they had quite a bit of chances, but they really didn't. They had like one or two decent chances and we gave them a goal.
Chances. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think like that, plus the fact that we're taking more shots and we're sustaining pressure. The last kind of puzzle piece to that, I think, is making those shots into more dangerous shots. We know we have some people in the team that like to take shots, but they're not great shots.
Actually scoring, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, but I would just say like the one thing that surprised me is that basically our XG for and against, which is like basically the XG that we have going forward versus the XG that we have for the opposition, the chances that they get, is very close to the output for Liverpool and Man City. Those are the only teams that are in front of us. We do better than Chelsea, Spurs, and Man United in those metrics. And that's important because that means we're giving up shots that aren't great. You know, teams are not attacking us. They're not really getting any joy. But equally, when we go down to the other end, we're a lot better than them. And that's important. So I think that that's something that stood out to me, that our defensive output is so good that it helps us sustain pressure and it's helping our attack.
So would you say in terms of improvement beyond the obvious then that need to be made?
We actually attack through central spaces a lot more than I think people like know. We score most of our goals through central attacking presence. And I think that that's a shock because over the last couple of seasons, it seems like we were just kind of attacking from the wings, and being able to attack centrally when most teams want to keep you out of the central parts of the pitch, I think speaks a lot to our central midfielders and the dominance that we have. And also Lacazette dropping deep and helping us connect play through the center of the pitch. So that was something that I didn't really look at. I was like, oh, wow, we really do attack through central spaces. And I just remember like 2 seasons ago, it was very much Tierney hitting hopes, you know, and we really weren't attacking through the center at all. Yeah.
What would you say? So then, of course, we've improved in the middle. We can't not talk about the lack of goals. And you kind of mentioned Lacazette. Where are you at with Lacazette? Because as you mentioned, he does a lot of dirty work. He does a lot of things that aren't going to necessarily be part of the highlight reel. Are you with him signing a new contract? And I mean, I've never actually asked you where you stood on the whole Aubameyang thing, which is now over as well.
Like, I guess in regards to like lack of goals, I would say that like, and this kind of goes with my answer when it comes to like Aubameyang, is that I think even last season we played our best attacking football with Lacazette and not with Aubameyang. And since Aubameyang's been out of the team, I think in December we scored like 20 goals. That's where the majority of our goals came from, and we've been pretty consistent attacking wise since then. And so when I think of the lack of goals, yeah, most of our goals have came between December and February. So you kind of have to be like, okay, well, we weren't really a good attacking team before that. But what coincided with that period of time? A lot of that had to do with Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka not being available at the same time, and Aubameyang versus Lacazette. And even though Aubameyang is a superior goal scorer to Lacazette, let's not, beat around the bush there. Lacazette is very much so a facilitator, and Aubameyang is an elite level goal scorer. He's doing it at Barcelona. That was never the issue. But the way that we build play and try to create chances for Emile Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, and Bukayo Saka, who are our strikers now, that's really how we play. It's better for us to have a facilitator through the center of the pitch than Aubameyang, who you need to set up chances for.
Needs on the plate, yeah.
Yeah, and with Aubameyang, it's kind of like most people, maybe not on this channel, but most people know where my stance is really with Aubameyang. It's kind of like he was never really, because I follow Dortmund, he was never really my favorite choice, because usually like with Aubameyang,
break my heart with this now.
This is no shade to him really, but like, let's be real. Like there's always like after 2 years, something happens and he kind of goes out the back door.
Oh yeah, there's
that's kind of like his style. And I was just wondering, like, when that would happen. I have to find the tweet because this was when I first got on Twitter, but I was a part of the like silent minority that didn't even want to re-sign him because I was like, not sure about this, and so we re-signed him and it didn't go well. Let's just say, like, all in all, we could probably say it was a fail. And I don't think it was just his doing. You have to play to his strengths. And if you're not going to do that, what's the point of re-signing him anyway? And Arteta really moved away from him like last season, and it's just been it just went from there, and he just wasn't as effective. But I think just the aspect of him like not being a great captain and not following the rules and all this stuff going on around him, I think it was best to just part ways. And both it seems like both sides are happy. So I'm happy for him that he's in the place that he really wants to be, but equally I'm an Arsenal fan, and I'm just happy that we did the right thing for us for once, and hopefully we just steer clear of those type of situations in the future. But yeah, Aubameyang, I just think he didn't fit the system as it currently stands now, and Lacazette's a better fit. That being said, if Lacazette doesn't score goals, like, we don't need him to score a lot, but he definitely needs to score more than what he's been scoring now. Like,
he's a
what does
striker.
he have?
He has to score goals. You're right, man.
Yeah, like 4 goals this season or something like that.
It's nothing too spectacular, really.
And if he doesn't play well, we're not going to make the top 4. So there's a lot of pressure on him. But so far, so okay. Doing the job that he's supposed to, working hard, but he definitely needs to add some more goals.
Obviously, to go back to January, was you disappointed not to have a striker in? Because again, I agree with everything you said about Aubameyang, but a byproduct is if something happens to Lacazette or Eddie Nketiah, who's not prolific, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed because I just felt like, well, before the season started, if you would have been like, oh yeah, we're going to be fighting for top 4, I would have laughed in your face. I would have been like, you're smoking. Like, come on. But now that we're so close and we played so well now, like, to the point where a lot of people feel like we're favorites. I was a little bit disappointed not to get the striker over the line, because I just feel like when we look back on it, if we don't make top 4, I think it'll be because we don't have enough goals in the team, and the young players just weren't able to sustain that level of consistency, which you wouldn't expect them to. They're kids, right? So I think with that, I was a little bit disappointed, but it's not like we didn't go after a striker. We did. We just didn't get him. And then what were the other options, right? Like, the other options being kind of spoken about, I don't think now that we look back on it with fresh eyes, like, are we really that upset that we didn't get Alexander Isak? Are we upset that we didn't get Morata on a 6-month loan? Or, you know what I mean? Because those players don't really feel like the right options right now. So I get why the club did it, but ultimately, if we miss out on top 4, it might be because we didn't have a goal scorer. And that'll open up more questions around, was it the right thing to do to get rid of Aubameyang at that point in the season?
You mentioned, obviously, we didn't get Isak. I don't think anyone wanted to pay the excessive fee, or no one really just wanted Morata. But I do think when you remove your emotion and you look at the body and what they could have added something. Where do you look at Edu then? Because I think, obviously, if Arteta's career tenure better yet ended tomorrow, at least he's won an FA Cup. He's changed the mentality. He's done 1-2 bits and pieces. Obviously, I have to give Edu some credit, but it's like you'd be kind of scratching your head. So where are you at with our technical director? Because you mentioned January. As much as I agree with not bringing people in, that's where he earns his money. He needs to get something. You don't get points for trying. Surely something needs to happen.
Yeah, he's kind of like, like my issue with this is, like, I feel like with KSE in particular, their reach or their knowledge of what's good and bad in football is like very small. And so their circle that they can pull from is really limited to past Arsenal players. That's what it kind of feels like to me. And so they think, okay, well, he used to play for Arsenal, so he knows what Arsenal is about. We can trust him. Edu's track record doesn't really speak to that level of, like, he was a great DOF, and yeah, it's very like, what are his connections? That's the most important thing for me with the DOF is, who's your circle of influence? Who is in your circle that we can pull from, that we can take advantage of? Like, if you look at Wolves, like, they should never
in the phone book. Simple as that.
Yeah, they shouldn't even be able to have half of the players that they got. Really, let's keep it real. Like, but because they have George Mendes in their pocket, they can kind of get away with that. We don't have, like, what is Edu's circle of influence? Who does he have a monopoly over in terms of like a market? He doesn't. And so
he don't even have it in his homeland.
Yeah, he doesn't. And I mean, it just speaks volumes that like since he's been in charge, I know they want to give him credit for Martinelli, but it really wasn't him. It was Francis Cagigao. Like, yeah. And so what, Willian? Is that it? Is that
what I'm saying? Willian, Cedric.
Yeah, and then we were trying to bring in Artur as well. So
he wanted Emerson Royal.
Yeah, he's limited. And if Arteta hadn't like stepped in certain instances, we would have Neto from Barcelona and Emerson Royal instead of Tomiyasu.
We wouldn't have Ben White
and Ramsdale. Exactly. So it's a little bit of an issue. I do think when it comes down to it, like the more culpable individual in terms of our recruitment and the disappointment that we've had maybe since Arteta has been here has been mostly Edu for me. I don't think it's Arteta. I think Arteta's talent idea is great, but Edu, like, he's very much a cutting corners type of dude. Like, okay, well, I know this guy. Let's look at your Rolodex and see what we can get. Instead of, he doesn't have any creativity. Like, he's very one note.
Not versatile at all.
Yeah, I would like to see somebody else there. I think we could do a lot better. And I worry about this coming transfer window because it's a big one. And if he fails, we fail, you know? So I love Edu for obviously being an invincible. Let's not talk about how Gilberto just kind of stomped on his head and took his spot, you know? But yeah, if I could have somebody else, I would.
Do you think then it's becoming obsolete with his role? Surely, because I know we're doing this whole similar to the team. We've got young individuals, but it just feels like, rightly so, we're betting on Arteta. He's getting a new deal. Everything's happening. You don't really kind of hear that with Edu. And it feels like if push comes to shove, surely you could get a more experienced guy so that if we have Januaries, someone can make something happen and pull a rabbit out the hat, as we've seen previously at this club.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're looking to make a change before it becomes obvious. I feel like once it becomes obvious that you need to make a change, it's too late. And so with him, it's like, I'm hoping that they're evaluating him and trying to figure out where we can have some marginal gains. Edu has been okay. Like, the last transfer window, the summer window, was good because he was operating within a price range and an age range where it's easy to convince. Yeah, it's easy to say, oh yeah, Tomiyasu, you want to leave Bologna to come to Arsenal? Cool. Oh, Odegaard, you want to leave Real Madrid? You know, you're not really playing games? Cool. Like, it's easy to do that. But this next window is going to be much more difficult, especially if we don't make it into Champions League. So I would hope that they make a choice sooner rather than later. There has to be, there's DOFs out there that are just chilling there like, oh, I don't have a job right now. Do you want to have me? And like, newsflash, I look at our kind of our contemporaries around us, and Tottenham are in the mud, but Manchester United have Ralph Rangnick. They're going to get it together at some point. They're going to hire a good manager. Ralph Rangnick's going to clean it up. Exactly. And we're going to be sitting here with Edu like, okay, cool. Like, it's not good enough. So yeah, it does worry me. I do think we need a change. I mean, it sounds so bad.
No, you're right, man. Like you kind of said, I do think it's a big summer. What would you say are the hardest things? Because for me, I know we need a striker, and whether we're able to get that caliber is a different thing. I think we need a midfielder. But for me, it's the outgoings, you know. MIKEL now, it doesn't look like Roma's going to have him. There's a lot of 2023 contracts. There's 2024 deals. So that surely affects what we can do, whether we get Champions League or not. So are you saying is looking like the hardest thing to do in the summer, or the bit that worries you the most, or where you need to see him earn his chops the biggest?
Well, I think selling players, not just outgoings. He's done a lot of tearing up contracts and things like that. Yeah, and it's like, but are you going to sell some players, or like, no? Like with Ainsley, there's no point in keeping him around. He wants to play day in and day out, and he's not going to do that at Arsenal. Can you get somebody to buy him for 10 to 12 million? Can you? You know, that should be well within his range, if not get a little bit more. I mean, we got 25 for Willock. I know that he had a very good loan, but Ainsley Maitland-Niles could be valuable to somebody. So I would like to see him sell some players, but ultimately with the group that we have, because everything's been slimmed down so much, there's just players that are like kind of running deals down, like El Neni should go. He'll be on a free. It's kind of like, okay. Another thing that kind of worries me is just getting Saliba and Bukayo Saka on new deals. I think that's it really
Martinelli
important.
as well, contract to 2024
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Martinelli as well. And I worry about Saliba in particular because he's so good. And like nobody really questioned whether he was good or not. We all knew he was going to be this player. But how do you convince him to fight for a spot with two center backs that are kind of doing the business right now? How do you re-sign him? How do you get him to commit when we know big clubs are going to come in for him that could probably offer him a starting position? I think the only way you do that is with European competition and giving him more money. And are Arsenal going to give him more money if he hasn't even played a game for Arsenal, his first team? So I think that's where Edu's going to really have to like earn his money, is getting these kids on new contracts. Don't think he'll struggle with Saka. Don't think he'll struggle with Martinelli. Saliba worries me. And then the central midfielder. More than the striker, I think the central midfielder changes everything.
I'm so happy you went in this route, but I cut you off. Go on. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I mean, people are. I get the striker situation. I do, but I don't even think we need a striker that's going to score 20 to 30 goals a season. I don't think we need that. I think we need somebody that's younger and better than Lacazette, and that's a very low bar. I have to be honest. Like, it's
I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah, it's a lower bar, but I know people are not going to like hearing this, but replacing Granit Xhaka is not as easy as it looks.
It's not.
He's not a bum.
Look at you like you're crazy. Yeah, people are going to look at you like you're crazy because Granit Xhaka is one where I call them Xhaka sexuals. You've got people that will defend anything he does, and then you've got critics. I see the fact that Arteta wants the team to run through him, and I stand proven wrong. I don't know anything. He's got the UEFA B qualifications. Until he gets a centre mid that is, as you said, an upgrade on Xhaka, I think we only get to a certain point. You mentioned playing out in the back. We can all see the final thirds improving, but it's the middle third. And I don't know about you, but when I look at Arsenal's midfield, we're very hot and cold. And when I look at us compared to other teams, I don't know what we're about. We're not defensive. We're not expansive. We're not tigerish. We're going through the motions. And there's been times Xhaka has looked bad. Xhaka has looked good. Xhaka has looked good with Partey. He's looked good by himself. The same goes for Partey. And I think when you've got these mixed performances and ultimately mixed results, you can't be surprised when the league starts in August and May, we're saying different things. So, yeah, I think midfields are arguably more important than a striker. You look at, I know City's the worst of examples, but they can function without a forward. You're meant to start, you build a house from the foundations up. You don't start with the roof. And I think that's where we're at. And are we even able to find a 20 league goal man for certain fee?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's, I think the midfielders, like you could find a really good one. Like there's more options with striker. The striker market is so bad right now that you kind of just have to pick from what's there. Once Vlahovic was gone, we're just kind of picking through the rest. But when it comes to midfielders, it's interesting because personally, I do think that Arteta is moving to a lone DM with two more advanced midfielders. I know people are like 4-3-3, but I think it's whoever's going to be playing as that left 8 needs to be able to drop in and help Thomas Partey play in that 6 role. So I don't see like another Odegaard on the other side. I don't see a Emile Smith-Rowe dropping into the 8 position and we just flying up the pitch. I think you need somebody with a little bit more, somebody that's a little bit more sturdy. And so I'm looking at like Fabian Ruiz as somebody that I think would be a good pickup because he would cost very little. Like for a player of his caliber, he'd be like damn near free, 16 million or something.
2023 exactly.
And he's an upgrade on Granit Xhaka technically and mobility wise. He's definitely not fast, but I don't think you need somebody who's like lightning quick to play in your midfield really. Newsflash, Ruben Neves is not good enough. I don't know if
really you reckon. Let me hear them reasons.
He's not good enough. I mean, if you don't that Granit Xhaka was getting bypassed in midfield, he got bypassed by our midfield 5 times in one match.
Fair enough. That's a bit how I feel about Telemans, even though I would love that carpet.
Exactly. And so when I look at it, I'm just like, I think we could do better. Ruben Neves is a good player, but then I also am like, I think Tielemans and Ruben Neves are where they are because that's kind of their level. I'm not sure that like an elite team would really go after them. But Fabian Ruiz to me is a little bit more cultured. He has a little bit more about him. He definitely gives you the goals. He scores very nice goals, like, and he has it in his locker.
Very cultured individual, man.
Yeah, I would look at somebody like that, not really like another 8'10", somebody that can play like a 6'8", somebody like that. But can Edu get somebody like that? Like, what is his abilities like? Like,
that's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know what his abilities are like, but that's what I would look at. I think the midfield changes the trajectory of what we're trying to do. That being said, we also need another midfielder. We need more than one because you're going to lose El Nene.
I say we need two. I would like two aces, really, and obviously I would say a 6, but Lokonga's there to grow into that. The people are saying Nkunku. I think we should have done that when Emre wanted him.
Yeah,
really.
It's too late for that. I think the ship is kind of sailed with that, but he's excellent. Like, he's going to cost you 60 to 80 million, but I think it's worth it. But do you think that there's Bundesliga tax with him a little bit? I mean, similar to kind of Sancho at the beginning, Havertz, Timo Werner. I mean,
yeah. Naturally, there's Bundesliga tax, there's Arsenal tax, there's adapting tax, of course, 100%. But I would also say I think there's a coincidence why last season our signings are doing better, and other teams, like you look at Liverpool, you would think all of them Liverpool players have been there for 10 years because they're going into a system. I think Arsenal's problem when you look at Pepe, who I'm going to ask you on in a sec, and Partey, we just sign a player and say, you know what, you had a standout year, you're good, come here and work it out, and it doesn't work like that. I think Nkunku would do that. I still don't know what he actually is because he can play as an 8, he can play as a 10, and defining in that lad. But 100% there's a Bundesliga tax, really and truly. What have you made of Pepe? Because me and you waffled a bit about Martinelli, Saka, and all them 2024s. He's 2024. It looks like Arteta is reintegrating him. Personally, I think we've seen this movie 2 years ago, and we're going to see it for a third time. But where are you at with that and Pepe?
I mean, to put it bluntly, I think that we're fattening him up for sale. I think that we're kind of saying the right things so that he looks like somebody like attractive to buy. But I think Pepe is just somebody that just doesn't fit what we're trying to do on a daily basis. And he's what, 27 or something?
27, yeah. It's kind of now or never-ish.
Doesn't he want to start games now? Like, doesn't he want to be the man? So I think when I look at Pepe, I just think, he's somebody that I wish didn't have that price tag hanging over his shoulder all the time, because I think that crushed him. But equally, I wish he had come into a system that would have supported him and we could have played in a way that we could have gotten something out of him. Now, what we've gotten out of him is what you would expect from a player that you pay 30 to 40 million for, which
should have been spent on. That's what he should be worth.
That's what he would have cost. It's just the price was too high. So I think we'll fatten him up for sale. I think he will go in the summer. I don't think anybody will buy him. I think we'll loan him. I think we'll end up having to loan him because the teams that are going to want him are going to be in France and probably Italy, and they don't really like to pay. So I think we'd have to loan him out, but that would open up a spot for another attacker, which I think we'll get more than one. I think we'll get the striker and somebody else.
No, I want that.
Yeah. And I like Pepe. I think he's such a talented player, but it just hasn't worked out. And he just never really adapted to the Premier League just being so brutal and him having to really adapt his game. And so it just hasn't worked out, but there's no animosity or anything, because it's not his fault that we spent that amount of money on him, right?
You're right. You got a couple of questions. Jess, would you take a punt on Alwa? Oh, I haven't seen that name in a minute.
It's such a blast from the past, that one. We were just talking about him on the show yesterday. There's a reason why nobody has come in and got him, right? Because he's been relatively cheap for 2 seasons now. You could have gotten him for 30 million. Yeah. And he's running down his deal as well. He's falling down the pecking order at Lyon. Like, they have a plethora of central midfielders, and it kind of seems like his time to go for big money has kind of went past him now. He's such a quality player that as the second midfielder to come in, I'd take a punt on it. If it was like 25 million or something, I would, he also changed agencies as well, which I think was something he needed to do. Yeah, there's something there, with that. So I would take a punt as the second midfielder that needs to come in, another number 8 that can do something different. I do believe in his quality. I just, it just didn't work out that one time.
I'm still taking him. And you've also been asked thoughts on Douglas Luiz of Aston Villa.
It's weird because it feels like they want to get rid of him. They were linked very heavily with Bentancur in the January transfer window. And they're also now linked with Boubacar Kamara, who is a nailed on number 6.
That's a decent 6 at centre half. Yeah, man. That's decent.
So I'm kind of like, so do we really want to take Aston Villa's leftovers? Well, they improved their squad with a new striker and a new central midfielder. Why would we take Douglas Luiz / Ollie Watkins, which is another name that's no, Arsenal, you want him, come on. And so I think you leave them with their mediocre players and we go get the better players. I would not take Douglas Luiz at this point. I don't see the reason for it. I really don't. I can't see it.
I'll take him because I like him and there's a Brazilian bias, and plus Arteta's worked with him. But I understand.
I have a Brazilian bias and I wouldn't take him. That's how little I rate him.
I mean, his Brazilian bias isn't biased in enough. What would you make of Bissouma? Just because he's someone that's always linked with us and he's got the same contract, keeping up the theme with that.
Personal stuff aside that we don't know anything about.
Yeah, obviously.
Let's say that's not happening and we're just talking about the player. He is somebody that I feel like I would still take. I think that outside of the top 3-4 teams in the league, he's with Declan. Like Declan Rice is the best, and then the next person underneath him in terms of central defensive midfielders, players that can play in a double pivot, it's Bissouma, and he's definitely ready for a step up. I would hate for him to end up at Spurs. That would be terrible. But he will go somewhere. Yeah, or Villa. So he will end up going somewhere. And I think if you wanted to be able to play with Thomas Partey alone by himself, or give him a double pivot to play with, or play without Thomas Partey, you bring in a Bissouma. That's what I think.
That makes sense. I wanted to ask you as well, what is your thoughts on, obviously as an American, you're the perfect person to ask. What's your thoughts on KSE? I know you mentioned it earlier, but yeah, what's your thoughts on them over in stateside? What do you make of, seeing the Super Bowl being won by the club he owns? And then obviously direct parallel, you're an Arsenal fan. So where does it put you kind of seeing it firsthand?
Yeah, I mean, that is Stan's priority. He will do whatever he needs to do to make sure that the Rams are successful, so when you look at that, you kind of are like, okay, Arsenal is like a redheaded stepchild. Like we really are kind of like on the back burner there. Right. We are a part of the investment portfolio and that's it.
We're an asset.
My house is like 5-minute walk from SoFi Stadium. The Emirates looks like, I don't know, like a doghouse compared to it. Like it's really just miraculous. Like it's so nice. Like I've never seen anything so nice in my whole life. And it's just weird being so close to it and then going to the Emirates and being like,
what's going on here?
Yeah. It's like, this isn't the same vibe. Like I'm not getting the same energy. But in regards to like where we are now with the Cronkies, I think we're in don't tell me, show me kind of thing right now, so Josh can say whatever he wants to say, and what he's saying sounds really good. When he did that, he did an interview. I forget what the podcast is called, but he did one of those podcasts or whatever, and he was talking about like what his vision was for Arsenal and how he wants to implement a North American theme to what we're doing. So instead of the draft system and develop, it's more of use our academy and develop and create stars and all that. That's always been a part of Arsenal's DNA anyway, but going back to it makes a lot of sense. But what happens when we get so far with our academy kids? What do we do after that? Are you going to invest? Are you going to invest and get us an Odell Beckham Jr.? That's what they did in order to win the Super Bowl. They got as far as they could, and then they brought in stars to make sure that they got it over the line. So I think that's what I'm looking for, is regardless to where we finish the season, whether we finish 5th or 6th or 4th, we need to have a Champions League level transfer window. We just have to. Like that's our only hope. And so they can say whatever they want to. I'm sure they have they have their best interest at heart, which is for Arsenal to be successful. But how successful are they willing? How far are they willing to go to make us successful? Is top 4 good enough? We know how they were like when we were getting top 4 before. They wouldn't invest.
They didn't even try
they
to
were
fish out
chilling.
the boat with sponsorships. It's only in the recent couple of years we're tearing up deals and pouring them out and whatnot. You're right.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with KSE. I'm willing to give Josh not a clean slate, but the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, I need to see it. And this next transfer window is going to show me a lot. You know, it doesn't matter where we finish. We need to finish the project. We need a striker, a midfielder, and some other things. And you need to renew Saka. You need to give him the money. You need to pay Martinelli. You need to pay Saliba. You need to make sure that we don't lose our best players. Like, it's just that simple, but we'll see what they're about.
You're right, man. And I still think the jury's out, but in their defense, they did kind of splash the cash last season in the summer. But this season, where we've kind of spent 100 odd million in the summer, they have given ARTETA a shitload to spend, whether it's happened or not. They have sanctioned Aubameyang signing the new deal. And then obviously, in what sort ripped it up from a business point of view, it probably is a bit shaky. I meant to ask, obviously, as an American, now, as a non-American, I saw Josh Kroenke make some comments along the lines of it's hard to feel passionate and things. Now, without being condescending for Americans, I got it, because in the same way that we've got NFL developing over here in football, I'm not saying British people can't be successful, but it's not ingrained in our society. So we're not going to live or breathe that. To a degree, maybe it's the same with you lot over there. So as an American football fan or soccer, how did you feel about Josh Kroenke's comments around, it's hard to replicate that sort of thing? Because a lot of people got onto him about it.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it would be difficult for some sports fans to become really passionate about something that they don't connect to at all. You know, the difference between soccer and football is the cultural connection between the fans and the club. Like, that's the difference. And there's nothing like it in America. You can't replicate it. It doesn't exist in American sport. There is no connection to like the club being built by the fans. Like, that's literally what it's been. Like, so it's kind of like, I kind of understand that. And I would never expect him to be passionate about Arsenal to that extent, because I just don't see him having that. Can he be more interested in it to actually understand the game and know what he needs to do to make it successful? Yeah. But for me, like, the reason why I love football and I love Arsenal is because of the connection and the community aspect, and knowing that the club is like literally ingrained to like the fans that helped build it over the years. Like, you know what I mean? And I just don't feel it like that in America. Like, it's very much like entertainment. It's very much entertainment. You can turn it off and turn it on whenever you want. Your team loses a game and you go about your life. When Arsenal lose, my week is done. Like,
everything's done until we play and win again, 100%.
Yeah. And that's the difference between sport and entertainment. So I understand what he's saying, and I know people don't want to hear it, but in America, it would be difficult to become really passionate about something you just don't understand or have a connection to at all.
In general, it would be.
Yeah. And you have to actually go to a game, go to the pubs, communicate with fans that have been going to games for years and years and years to even begin to understand it. You probably would never be something that you can just immerse yourself into naturally. Like, I'm American, but I understand it more, and it makes me love the club more, and it makes me less interested in American sports because I just don't feel that, so I'm not too upset by what he said, because he's just speaking facts, really.
How is Kroenke viewed in America? Because he's almost like, I want to be very respectful, but he's either he's to some fans he probably is the devil. He's seen as some like the green.
Yeah, for a while, like, well, his franchises really weren't doing well, so there was like a period of time where the franchises really weren't doing well, and he was just a mediocre sports,
mediocre
owner. Like, he was just in the middle, like he just wasn't great. But obviously he wanted to put more effort into the Rams, and I think a lot of that came from the scrutiny, and really just like the shame of taking the LA Rams from St. Louis and moving it over here. That was a big thing for the Kroenkes, and it's still kind of, I wouldn't say it tars their name or anything like that, but it's definitely something hanging over them. They still owe money from that, and they're not paying it. So I think all in all, the Kroenkes are not really like, oh my gosh, they're amazing owners, I love them. It's very much so like, this is their business. They'll do whatever they have to do to make sure it's successful for them. And he cares about the Rams, and that's about it. But Josh, the franchises that he's taking more ownership over are starting to do better because he cares more, so I focus more on Josh than I do Stan, because I know what Stan's about.
You said it there. Getting back to the football, the first thing I was meant to ask you, can Arsenal make top four? What is your thoughts on us in relation to top four? As you said, people would have looked at you crazy in August if anyone said this, but here we are.
I think we can make it.
What gives you confidence?
The teams that should be up there playing poorly. That's one of them. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like Manchester United and Spurs playing badly doesn't give us a better chance. But I think we're consistent against the teams that we need to be beating.
Facts.
And I know that we still have some a ways to go when it comes to competing and getting points against the top teams, the teams that are above us, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man City. But we really just need to beat who's around us and who's below us. And we're doing a really good job doing that. And that's what over the last, 12 or so months has given us the point totals that equal something similar to the teams that we want to be like.
True.
So I think we have a really, really solid chance. Beyond all the statistics coming out and all the media talking about it, when I look at our team, I see a team that could probably push for it. We're going to go through some weird period. I already know. I don't know when it's coming.
Yeah, we ain't going to win every last game. 100%.
Yeah, it's coming. Like, I thought it was going to be the Wolves match, but it wasn't. So we'll see what happens. Like, I could easily see us drawing to Watford and everybody falling apart. Like, I could see it. But I think we have a really good chance, and we kind of have to do it now. If we don't do it now, I don't know if the opportunity will still be there next season, because I just have this weird feeling that Man United is going to get their lives together and that'll be it. So we kind of need to do it now if we're going to do it, but we have a really good chance.
If we don't do it, would you consider it a failure?
No, I wouldn't consider it a failure. Like, I think it depends on how far off we are. If we finish 5th or 6th and it's within a point or two, can I consider it a failure? No, especially because I didn't think we'd be anywhere near it. Would I be disappointed? Yeah. Like, I think I would feel like we missed out on a really good opportunity because the teams around us were playing like crap and we were playing well. So what happened? So I would be disappointed, but is it a failure? No. Now, if we finish 7th or 8th, or we finish 6th, but we're like 6 points away, yeah, I'm mad then, because we didn't keep up pace. We weren't really putting pressure on. And ultimately, that's the most important thing, is for me to see that we're competing. We're close. We're there and thereabouts, So, yeah, it wouldn't be a failure to me. I mean, would it be a failure to you at this point?
I mean, like you said, you took the words out of my mouth, really and truly. We weren't targeting this in August. I would kind of consider it, considering the position we found ourselves in and everything that's going. I would call it a failure, because when Leicester won the league, I highly doubt in August they were talking about the league. A position found itself, and then they went and did it. So it won't be the end of the world, but it'd be a bitter pill to swallow. And for me, obviously, if we're going to be this team that's fighting for top 4 and beyond and doing all these things, then in make or break moments, we're going to need to get over the line. It's all fun and games doing it in November and that. We need to be able to do it. So I'd definitely call it a failure. I really would. That brings me to another question. Where are you at with the talk of Arteta signing a new deal? And are you for it? Are you against it? Are you in wait and see mode? Where are you at with that?
I have to be honest, I think that this is so blown out of proportion. I just feel like re-signing a manager, giving them an extension is kind of like, it's nothing like doing it with a player, so you can still sack him whenever you want, but I get the aspect of like, he should be getting a new contract because he's done something good, or he's achieved something. And some people don't feel like he's done anything to deserve a new deal. But I guess for me, it's more like, this is just what you do when your manager gets into the last 2 years of his contract or whatever. You give them an extension if you're happy with what they're doing, or you're happy for them to continue on. And by everything that we've heard, KSE are happy with what he's doing. You know, they feel like he's the right man for the job. So, but if he'd finish, you know, if next season, you know, we finish outside of the top 4 and we've spent 200 million again and we just fail, you can still sack him. You can still sack him. You're not tied into it for the foreseeable future. So I don't think it's that big of a deal to me. I don't think we're getting rid of Arteta anytime soon. And I just hope that he continues to get better, because personally for me, I think he's improved quite a bit this season with the way that he manages games and stuff like that. So I give him a lot of credit. He still has to get it over the line and make sure we are in the European places. But I don't think for me, it's not that deep, because if he fails, we could still sack him. We're not tied in, you know.
You're right. I just feel with Arteta, like everything, I feel there's a lot of cliques and clans and just damn right agendas. A lot of people just want to win or lose just based on Arteta's failings. I do feel, on one hand, I don't really want to praise someone for righting their wrongs, because you should be doing that anyways. But as you said, we're playing the same team. You spent 150 million. We're seeing why you did. I wouldn't say we're playing attractive football, but I'm seeing building blocks, things that I couldn't see. So if I'm going to give you the criticisms, I'm going to give you the praise. I do think with Arteta, the bar's a bit on the floor like some of our players. We praise him for what a manager should be doing anyways. And I think one thing I don't like is that when we win, it's all the gaffer. When we lose, there's no question marks on him. Again, I wanted to ask you kind of my couple final questions. What have you actually made specifically of our summer signings? Like, who do you think done the best? Who wasn't you really, if you wasn't happy on anyone, who's exceeded expectations? Where are you at with them?
Let's see. Well, I think Odegaard is the most improved, because we've seen him last season and there was like a little bit of like an underlying, like, is he actually good enough? Did he really do anything during his loan spell?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it was very much so like, we like him, but not sure. So, but over the last 2-3 months, he's been phenomenal. Now, is he perfect? No. In order to really be a midfielder for Arsenal and to be like that guy, he's gonna have to score at least 10 goals a season. I think he needs to really get goals. Like it's very like, okay, this is nice, but you need to shoot. But he's most improved to me, and he's been so mature and so the anti Ozil, you know, in that way where he can do the pretty passing and all that, but he works so hard. He runs harder than anybody. And yes, that's a bare minimum requirement. We know that it's not something that you should be like, yeah, you ran. But I don't even think it's just like the bare minimum that he's doing. I think he goes above and beyond to really work for the team. And I haven't seen that in such a long time from a player that a lot of people would say is a luxury, a number 10, a flair guy. Fact. So for me, Odegaard has been a revelation. I think he's going to be really special for us. I wish he was a little bit faster, but other than that, like, you can't have everything right in a player sometimes. And for 30 million, he was a steal. And I would say Ramsdale's been great, but I never really had like a huge issue with that. I thought people were overreacting with Ramsdale. I was just like,
that with Odegaard as well, to be fair.
Yeah. For me, it's Ben White. Yeah, it's Ben White. Yeah, I think because he was getting it from like the rival fans and all of that. Like, there were so many things going around about Varane and we have so and so, and you spent 50 million on this guy, and he's a bum. That guy is so good, and he definitely was a perfect David Luiz replacement, which we needed. But he's so much better in terms of just being smarter. You know, I think he's just a smarter player. He doesn't have that reputation about him. He's slick. He's good on the ball. He's confident. He's a calming presence. He's perfect with Gabriel, and he gets better and better and better. And I like that he had kind of like a really bad moment against Brentford, and he's been able to kind of overcome that. And everything that we do that's good comes from Ben White, the midfield two, and Odegaard. Those are our guys. If they're not playing well, we're not playing well. Right. And so I really like
and the young guys,
yeah, I really like Ben White a lot. He surpassed my expectations very much. So.
Who would you say is your improved? Who would you say out of the players that were here, who's improved over the last? Saka's really came into his own. I actually have to give Cedric some credit because I don't rate him. I never have rated him. I never will. But these 3 games, he's been elite, man.
I would say, I mean, we always talk about the kids, and I think that they just get better because they're just getting better, as you know,
True.
they're just is what it is. I would say just because he started off so poorly this season is probably Thomas Partey. I'm a huge Thomas Partey fan. Everybody knows it. And when he doesn't play well, I feel like my DMs are his DMs because I get abused because he doesn't play well. Because people know,
club,
like,
mate.
I rep this guy so hard. Like, it's very difficult for me to say that he's not playing well.
Trust
me. I think the fan base, sometimes we get big players come with big price tags and we expect them to save us, right?
And do everything, yeah.
Yeah, they without anybody else around. Like, I hear things like, well, he needs good players around him to do well. Who doesn't? Like, who doesn't need better players around them to do well? Like, what are we talking about here? And so when I look at Thomas, like, I just think, okay, well, he knew that he wasn't playing well. There was a period of time when Xhaka went out with injury and we were playing with Lokonga and El Neni, where he was hiding, like, and it was pissing me off because it was very difficult to watch him play like that because he's so much better than that, right? Facts. Yeah, and I was like, his confidence is gone. But ever since, like, the Southampton game, which came right after the Everton game, where he was getting killed on socials, he's been good ever since then. You know, when he plays well, when he plays, we win. Like, period. Like, that's just how it is. And when he plays well, and he's playing out of position per se, like he is playing as a lone DM, which a lot of people don't feel like he could do, and he's doing it very well. And he actually did it against Man City as well. Like, I don't know if people realize he's playing by himself in that midfield. And so against
United away as well, he doesn't get credit for. I was watching a game again last night. He done very well again.
Yeah, and so I just think we expect it because he came in and he was $50 million and he was this guy and he was supposed to come in and change everything. But I think going from Atletico Madrid to Arsenal is a very different pressurized situation, and he never really adapted. And he got injured a lot, and the midfield that he was playing with wasn't very good. You know, so I give him a lot of praise for that. And I think if we could give him another midfielder to play with and a striker in front, I think he could help us really sustain top 4 for a couple more years. And the last thing I want to say for Thomas Partey is I see that there's this almost like desperation to replace him now because he's 29. Good players go into their prime at 29.
Another 3-4 years, man.
Yeah, I don't get that. And I'm like, just because Lacazette started breaking down at 26 doesn't mean we need to start getting rid of Thomas Partey. I think he becomes somewhat of a Fernandinho for us. I do think we'll future-proof and manage him as time goes on. But the guy is just, like, I just think he's one of our best players, like, full stop. Just let him cook, like, relax.
You said it there. There's nothing else to say from that. Last question would be, in fact, second from last question. I missed the Big Sal's question. He mentioned, summarizing he said, how long do you think we hold on to Smith Rowe, Martinelli and Saka, provided we don't improve and all of the rest of it?
Oh, if we don't improve?
Yeah.
Next season. And then they'll start getting picked off. Yeah, I do. Because you have to look at what's happening around us as well. Like, Liverpool are going through a shakeup, you know, in their front line, and Mane will most likely go. We don't know. They need to pay Mohamed Salah, but if they don't, they're going to start looking at Martinelli and Bukayo Saka. Like, it's no coincidence that Klopp continues to talk about them, and that just shows how good that they actually are and what they can become. So I do think we have next season and potentially one more, but I don't think we have much longer if we don't get into Champions League. I have to be honest. I think Smith Rowe would stay a little bit longer. I think Martinelli. I think the first one to go might be Bukayo Saka if we don't. Do you reckon?
I'm just about to ask you, out of them 3, who would be the first to go? Because I reckon Martinelli, just because of the fact that you know, he's come to love Arsenal. He didn't grow up here. He's not from here. He didn't come from the academy. He's come to love it. And, you know, right now they're all three young lads, so they're very naive. So you have to take with a pinch of salt when they say they love the club. It's easy to love the club, giving you a platform as you're developing. When you're in your mid-20s, it's different. So I would have said Martinelli, to be fair with you. What's one that you'd have to, if you could keep, you could only keep one of the three. He stays for life. Which one would it be out of all of them?
Oh, Bukayo Saka. Like, I think he's just the best out of the three, and he may not score the most goals, but everything good that we do goes through him. You know, the pocket of space with him and Odegaard is so important to how we score goals. And I just think his ceiling, I think Martinelli's ceiling is the highest in terms of like who could become like the best player in the world. It's probably Martinelli. But I think in terms of Arsenal and what we're trying to do, I just think Saka is so important because he's kind of the mascot. He's the face. And I think losing him would really dent us badly, especially if he ended up going. Because if he does go, like if Martinelli goes, he may end up in Spain. So you'll have to watch him every week. Saka leaves, he's going to Man City or Liverpool. That'll kill you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I'm like, we need to tie this guy down. We need to surround him with players of his quality. Like he could play for Man City now, as far as I'm concerned. So he needs to have that level of player around him at some point. And so even though they love the club and they don't want to leave, good players are competitive and want to win things. And I would expect them to be no different than the players that have left us time and time again because we just weren't competitive enough.
Exactly. Honestly, I can't pick, man, because I think, as I said, Martinelli, I've kind of braced myself. Saka and Smith Rowe are Hale End. I think being a Wenger baby, Smith Rowe is everything. That's Wenger's DNA. Saka is something else. I'd have to flip a two-sided coin, man, if it's not with Martinelli. I don't know which one. My last question, Watford versus Arsenal. What are you expecting from the game? What's your predictions for it? And yeah, what's your score prediction?
We'll struggle to break down the low block. I mean, It's just that simple. You know what I mean? They'll be at home, but they're not stupid. You know, they're not going to go out and try to play. It's Roy Hodgson. They're going to sit in a low block and try to frustrate us into a 0-0 or something and try to nick us on the break. Ismail Assar is not going to be there. He has a hamstring issue. That's great. That's good news for us because I think their attacking group is actually a lot better than people give them credit for. Dennis and Josh King and Ismail Assar, they're good players. And so I think them on the break could be difficult for us. But at the same time, our biggest issue is if we get one or two chances, can we put them away? Can we sustain the pressure? It cannot be Burnley. It can't be like that where they sit in a low block the entire game and we get one chance and you skew it wide. It really needs to be like we come at them hard and we get a goal early and we just kind of relax. And I think it's going to be a difficult game, but I can see us winning 1-0. I don't think we're going to get like a bunch of goals off of them, but I can see like a very like tight 1-0. We have like 26 shots, but they're just going to sit in. Target. Yeah, they're going to sit in and we're going to be out here like and watching Thomas Partey shoot it into the stands. Like it's really... it's going to be that, you know, but I think we'll win.
It goes in, man. You never know. It might be Partey's time on the weekend, man. They've got to go in.
And this is why I look forward to like games against like Leicester or Villa. Like I'm looking forward to those games more. And it probably feels like, well, why would you look forward to those games? Those teams are better. Those teams are open at the back. They'll try to play us and they're dumb and they're not good defensively. I don't really enjoy watching us have to try to break down a low block. It's not fun. 1-0. That's what I have for that.
I mean, I'm going to go with 2-0. I just think, you know what? I'm scared of Emmanuel Dennis. I'm not really confident with us away from home. Like you said, Roy Hodgson, he's, you know, what you'd expect from an English coach. He's never going to change and he's had a good career. So I think that's what we're going to see. You know, Watford at Vicarage Road isn't always the plainest of sailings for us. So I just hope that we just keep doing what we're doing, really. So I'm going to go with 2-0. I mean, if we lose, we can't, as we said earlier, we can't win every game, but considering it's the Manchester derby, considering Spurs have Everton, Lampard's Everton, that they might do something. I need 3 points, man. I need 3 points. And respectfully, these are winnable games, or they should be. Scary.
Well, what do you think about like Arteta coming out and saying that Edu has done a lot to try to create a partnership between us and Watford. What do you think? What do you even think that means?
I've missed that. What does he mean by partnership?
Yeah,
Is it
so
just
this
say partnership?
Yeah, he said like a partnership, a close relationship. And I mean, of course, they're like right next door. But I'm like, what does that mean? Like, because I think they could be a decent feeder club for us, if that's what you're saying.
They could, but we're both in the Premier League. So it's like, what much can they do? If
they're not going to be in the Premier League next season.
Yeah, I mean, they're gone. So yeah, why not really? I mean, it's next door, but it's like, what is that partnership? Are we going to share expertise? Are we going to share changing?
Well, we send our players there on loan.
Oh yeah, we could do that.
They give us players that are too good to play for them. I mean, when I look at like players that could come in and like do, you know, be kind of like a backup attacker, I would take Dennis. I would take Sar, you know, so
I bring that partnership if it's that. Bring that partnership.
Yeah, I liked what I was. We need more feeder clubs. Like, we don't have any, so
we don't have anyone to send our players out on loan. Because I would like us to do the Chelsea thing, where there are players that can't get work permits, they'll get housed in Holland or something, and then they are either sold on or whatever. My biggest pet peeve is, for me, I feel since we've had to be financing and looking after our pockets, we've been a bit reckless. We've had to tear up one contract too many. We're not really getting too much bang for our buck from our academy. Like reality is, considering he came from our academy, £1 million for Maitland-Niles wouldn't be the worst thing, but we all know in reality that's peanuts, and it's just ultimately just being a bit more proactive. So yeah, you're right, man. I feel that's the next step for us. But again, when you've got Edu, who is probably still learning on the job like Arteta, he might not even know he doesn't know these things. So I don't know, but bring the partnership, then fair play. You know, again, I'd have to see what sort of partnership it is and things like that. But bring it. You know, I'm happy you mentioned that. Bring it. You know, let them know where they can find you. I mean, I'm about to put your YouTube account up here. I mean, I can't imagine no one doesn't know who you are, but let them know. It just
feels like so many shows are up there. That looks insane. So yeah, you guys can just type She Knows Arsenal in the search bar in YouTube, and you will find me there. And on Twitter at She Knows Arsenal or Jacinho Tweets, whichever one. I'm always on there. I'm very active. And yeah, subscribe to the channel.
Make sure you're subscribing. Obviously, people, this is on Twitch when it's on YouTube. And if you're listening to this replay, it'll be very simple. You literally just have to click on her name in the title and you'll be able to follow. And as you said, make sure you're following her on her Twitter accounts, on her Twitches, if you have that, and everything else. What was I going to say to you? What content have you got to come out today or whenever? What can people look forward to?
Yeah, 9 p.m. UK time today, I'll be doing a match preview for the game. You know, just chatting about lineups and predictions and all that kind of stuff. And I really need us to win this game. I'm getting nervous now just thinking about it. Like, we need to win.
I mean, you made me feel a bit more nervous about this game than I initially was, about the whole point about sitting back and things. So we'll have to see. But you said it there. We need to win. But it's been lovely having you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, I appreciate you, because the turnaround was quite quick. I asked you. I know we haven't done this for a while, and yeah, I'm always here for a great talk. And again, the selfish point was I just wanted to ask you about the Kroenke whole American thing, really. So I feel like I've learned a lot, really. You've been a massive addition to the channel. So yeah, people, 9 p.m. UK time. Subscribe anyways, but you know where to head. For now, though, we're out. One love to everyone who's been involved. But peace. Always just that active and defending. I think it's like